everyone, welcome back to PommyInOz. Hope we're all doing absolutely splendidly on a Friday. It's the preview time even for Gold Coast Suns versus Carlton. And look, we've brought an old one back from the relics. Those who remember your favourite Pom. This was the first ever jumper I wore when I ever did a video that you all saw, going way back to my debut on Blue Abroad, Port Adelaide in 2021. So that was a long time ago, wasn't it? No, sorry, 2019, wasn't it? Jesus, we've been around a bit, haven't we? But if you are new around here, please drop a like, drop a subscribe. Firstly, thank you to everyone who has done that. 2,200 subs now. You're all legends in my book. You can go a step further and become a member of the channel. We've sponsored Dom McCoy. Link is in the description. If you are on iOS, you're going to have to click that. And if you are a returning PommyInOzer, you're right. How you doing? Bob on, that is. So, obviously, we've got a big game. But there's some things that we have to address, is there not? Obviously, Carlton have been in the papers for all the wrong reasons, which is bizarre when we're 3-0. Is it not? That people are trying to scapegoat us. Obviously, Mcdonald, he did his article where he basically said Carlton are piss. So I suppose we better look at stats that actually mean something and try and tell a fair story. But obviously we've got Gold Coast Suns. Now, Gold Coast Suns, obviously, you know, on paper, they're not a side that you'd be threatened by, are you? Obviously, because obviously where we are on the ladder and they're not. But they're not to be taken lightly. One thing that has been a cornerstone of Gold Coast game plan under Dew, particularly those who remember last year as well when we played them, is their ability around stoppages and clearances, and we'll cover that a bit more in depth a bit later on in the video. But what is interesting about Gold Coast is they're a very combative outfit, and when Mick was complaining about Carlton, about their stoppage clearances, he was right that you can alleviate that by good defence and taking away the stoppages inside 50. By intercepting, of course you can, and also, you know, just being very hard-edged and very combative. Obviously, Gold Coast, they do have more tackles, which is been picked up quite a lot in the previews, I've noticed, from AFL media around the web and around TV. But you've also got to look at the counter measurement for that. Carlton are the leading disposal side in the comp. Voss, a key cornerstone of his game plan is ball retention and using the football. And that also goes against alleviation of pressure. So in an ideal world where Carlton have gone wrong, and I think the biggest thing for me is intercepts and scores from transition are the most overrated stat. When you're looking at the two sides that we've played already this year, Richmond and the Doggies, historically, the last 2 years, they've been in the top 5 of transition defence and their numbers, their ability to protect the rebound. You've also got to take into account as well that Hawthorn are flying, and Carlton had a statless half, basically, in these key metrics. And when you're playing 3 games and you have a statless half, when you're also talking about scores from transition, you're saying that, oh, the top side last year were 50, Carlton are oscillating at 40. You're actually talking a goal from transition would get you in them numbers when it's 3, when it's literally such a small segment size. So you can't really compare sides now to then. Also, as most AFL pundits will know, the key cornerstones of stats that you're looking for change from year to year. And what I'm looking about Carlton is the change, where these teams have come from. Their ability to concede inside 50s has gone from one of the most sides that hemorrhage inside 50s, which was an argument a lot of the media used for why Whittaker didn't get in because he had so much opportunity to take an intercept grab. Carlton are the least inside 50s against, showing a real good midfield pressure, showing that we're forcing entries deeper, and that is it. And this is what's going to be a key cornerstone to this game. That being intact, our ability around stoppage and clearance, because they've got a very strong midfield. But I think another layer to that in this game is going to be your ability to implement pressure. And teams have been very successful against Gold Coast with ground ball gets and doing that and getting the ball to the outside. So this week you're going to be really looking at that Shearer rotation on the wing. You're going to be looking at Setterfield to really make sure that he's getting the distribution, or Bryon's getting the distribution. And Sard is a huge acquisition to come back in the terms of he's very, dominant, to shout out Luke Sinden, in his ability to break forward pressure and his ability to give you natural width as well. So it's going to be real interesting in that. Some stats that I really do like as well, that under pressure Gold Coast have been hemorrhaging free kicks against, particularly high free kicks. And that is where you're going to be looking at the small guys, your Fishers and players like that, to really use a bit of intelligence and give you that run. Because when you've got a lot of the ball, that plays into that. So it's going to be a really interesting battle. Now, we've picked some cornerstones in the matter of stats section. And as you can see, what we talked about, both sides are showing scores from centre and stoppage clearances. Carlton and Gold Coast have a strong focus on this. And it makes sense when you look at what you've both got. So you've got Gold Coast there, they've got Wits, we've got PeterV, who's one of the leading hit-out, is the leading hit-out guy in the AFL at the moment. And then you've got a strong midfield core around them. They use Ellis, Rao, Anderson, Carlton, obviously Chera, Hewitt, Cripps, Walsh, the list goes on. It's a real key cornerstone. Now, the interesting thing though here with Gold Coast versus Carlton is Gold Coast have tended to look for territory from it. Now, what they've done really well is they've got a gentleman by the name of Levi Casbolt. Levi Casbolt is an impeccable player when he is the sole marking forward. As you remember from Carlton, before we had Harry, before we had that was one of his strengths, his ability to be a target. But when you look at Gold Coast and what they do versus Carlton are a very handball heavy side in this. Also shown by their kicking conversion as well, that they are a very handball heavy side. And that is a way that when you look at GWS last week, who really gave them a kind of a seeing to an old school dust up, they really went max handball. They really focused on the handball and moving them around. And players like Tuck Miller, who's a very dangerous type player, that's what you want to do. You want to be committing them. And that is something that Carlton's centre clearance and their stoppage work has been impeccable. Their matchups, their ability to create space by blocking with Kennedy and Hewitt, going backwards, that is going to be a key focus for me where Carlton can really hurt Gold Coast Suns. And as we see here, handball chains in their two defeats, we've seen a lot of them. Both GWS and Melbourne have also tried to get the ball away from them contested situations. GWS having abnormal uncontested stats last week. So that is going to be a really important thing that Carlton are going to have a little bit of composure and really look to go out wide, look to use O'Brien. I know that a few of you, I can hear you in the audience going, oh, fuck's sake. But let's be fair, he stacks up against the best wingers in the competition this year. He gets a lot of flack for what he is. You've got to understand what role he's playing. And Messer Setterfield. And then also that rotation, I will be shocked to see Shearer not play on the wing this week. I reckon he will have a heavy rotation there. And with the addition of Dow potentially, it'll be interesting to see, does Voss go bold there and think, you know what, I'm going to throw Dow on the ball for a bit, look to break that stoppage, because I do think he could be a key cog in this, particularly how we're watching him in VFL. Do I like it? Not really. I do think that Dow needs some continuity in the VFL and get some real confidence that is unbreakable. But I do think there's merits to that. I do think as well another key cornerstone for this and a key cog is their ability to intercept, particularly from midfield. If you look close at the corridor, they close it down. And we saw that against Hawks and we saw what happened then when Carlton were really funnelled out wide. That is what this side do really well. And it's a great test for what they've learned. I think last week, mark my words, will be a huge game when Carlton win a flag. You actually look back at that and go, look, you know what, the wheels fell off at times. But they really did show resilience. And we're going to see what they're going to learn. And what is really important when you come up against that corridor is your ability to try and use the ball well. And that's what Carlton did very poorly in the fourth against the third against Bulldogs and the third against Hawthorn. It's interesting. This is a quarter that Carlton are really struggling with, that third quarter. And I think for me, when I watch it in my role of development, is I see a side that has, I call it at work, the run home to mum status. It's when you start to see telltale signs of what you used to be and you start to escape the game plan, and naturally the habit is to go back to what you know. And Carlton start to react at times, particularly the forward line. And this is why I think Jack Martin is going to be a key cog in this game. Carlton started to drop deeper, so you found that the ball inside 50 was a lot shorter into the hot zone that most marks are taken in intercept roles, just in that early part of the inside 50. The forwards started to come back a bit, the small forwards, because they were getting tired of being overlapped all the time by GF and players like that. So they start to give themselves 2 metres to react to it, where the best Carlton is when it's deep, it's almost in between halfway inside 50 and the goal square, and they're in front of the ball. They're there, and that is where Carlton really will when they start to learn to do that all the time, because that is a sustainable method, but it requires cojones, and at the moment Carlton haven't got that, and that is where Martin comes in. I think Carlton, for me, didn't have enough disposals inside 50, and Jack Martin is a key conduit from that. Him and Jack Silvani present on that outside of 50 and then look to go one kick deeper, and it naturally forces Carlton to be deep. When they don't have that cog, Harry and Curnow become too obvious as the targets, and that is going to be a key cornerstone for this game, being able to get it as deep as possible and hem them back in, because one thing Gold Coast have shown is under pressure it relents, the wheels come off, and that is what Carlton have got to do. No one's talking about Hawthorn had a pressure index of 200 last week when it started to fall off. That is abnormal. That is battle of the Somme levels of pressure in the terms of football, to use a very poor analogy. But it's going to be interesting. Carlton's key component has been their mid-pressure, as we talked. Least inside 50s in the competition. And it's a weakened forward line, it has to be said, without Ben King. Carlton here have to look at the ground ball gets and bringing it to ground. You can't just keep going in for a marking contest with these guys. You've got to look to move them. And that is where this handball creates space in behind, and the midfield chains for Carlton have really generated scores. And that is what they've got to look to do. The forwards, particularly as well, when we have the ball, bring that bugger to ground. Get it going, get the motions flowing, put the pressure on, rinse and repeat. Both sides have struggled with conversion, really. And that is what it's going to be. It's about getting it closer, and Carlton will know that with the conversion that Gold Coast Suns have at the moment inside 50, with the fact that they don't hemorrhage inside 50s, is a real key market to winning games. Every side against Carlton has struggled at the death of kicking goals, and that is because the defensive pressure numbers stay the same without. The big flux for us is our mid and our forward pressure, and that is purely not because of lack of pressure. It's a simple structural change. It's because they give themselves that 2-3 metres to react. All in all, my gut is telling me that Carlton win this one by 40. And you may say, fucking hell, Pom. I think you'll see a fire. I think you'll see a return to form for Carlton. And I think, for me, good sides when they get hemmed in the press, which for me has been unjustifiable this week. I think Carlton will come out firing. And I predict a big one from that midfield outfit. All in all, that's my take on the game. Any questions, fire them in the comments. Let me know your take out and your predictions. Can't wait to welcome you all on the watch along on Sunday. I'm expecting a big one because obviously it's not in Victoria, but my interstate brothers and sisters get to see it. Enjoy your weekend, and until next time, Pommy out.